The Switch launched about a month ago, which means I'm on the tail end of getting my own thoughts and opinions out on this. But I really would like to say a few things about that, and to just tear all of the dreams down of those people that haven't gotten a Switch yet. I'd like to, before I start, I want to preface all of this with this is all just based on my opinion. I have a fairly strong opinion about this device, and I get a lot of people asking me all the time, like, what do you think of this new hardware and all this new tech? I love to talk about it, but don't take my considerations just as opinions, right? And make sure you keep your own thoughts and opinions about it. I don't want to intentionally rile people. I always have to put something like this, in front of a discussion video just in case, because there's going to be some people out there that aren't going to quite dig what I'm putting down. So anyway, I'll start off. There's a few key things that really support, at least in my opinion, support my stance on why you should not buy the Nintendo Switch. In fact, honestly, with the trajectory of upcoming like software that Nintendo is going to be putting out for that thing, I would, if I were you, wait about a year until the Switch has maybe realized its true potential. So that, as a caveat, I've definitely played the system. I got a buddy of mine who, sat me down and let me play the best game, I think, hands down, and there's really no arguing about that, game on the system, which is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So if you guys have been looking at the reviews and stuff for that one, you can see, like, it's awesome. But before we get into any of that, can I, let's at least lay down what the Nintendo Switch is. So the Nintendo Switch, for, people watching this video that may not know, is a handheld / console hybrid device from Nintendo. It was their successor to the Wii U. Now, the Wii U had some pretty abysmal sales and was supposed to be their flagship horse, going for the PS4 and Xbox One generation of consoles. But it, kind of failed so badly that, they had their eyes set on, maybe something a little bit more unique and maybe something that speaks more to Nintendo fans. And in that kind of sense, I think they really did what they set out to do. My big problem is that they always set out to do the wrong thing, at least in my opinion. So here's what I wanted out of Nintendo. If you guys remember all the hullabaloo back in the day, talking about the NX, it was, everybody was so excited for it. And in my head, I was like, I know exactly what I want them to do for me to be able to buy a Nintendo Switch. I haven't bought it. Like, I had a GameCube, I had an SNES, and I had some of the older consoles, but I didn't really buy the Wii. I had like so many people that I could play with the Wii, and I definitely didn't buy the Wii U. But I really wanted to get back on board. Because the main thing to me, the strength that Nintendo has, is in their software, right? And I think everybody knows that. Everybody knows that their titles are what keep them going. It's their hardware hasn't been like so fancy as of late. But the things that really took them down in the last gen were the things I wanted them to focus on this gen. So what I was expecting out of the Nintendo Switch was a dedicated home console, hardware that would play, Nintendo games, that had wide support from third-party developers, American, European, Japanese developers, of course, to create like a good system that could compete with its two competitors, the PS4 and Xbox One. I know there's some people out there that would totally disagree with me by saying that there's already, like, PS4 and Xbox One, they're already so similar, then, there's no reason to throw a third horse in the race that's going to be exactly the same. But I kind of disagree, right? Because there's so many things that differentiate the two, and it's pretty easy. If I'm trying to convince somebody to buy one of these, it's pretty easy to figure out which console is right for you and what kind of exclusives speak to you and that kind of stuff. And that's exactly what Nintendo would do. It would add a third tier to that bracket. It would drive up competition, which would drive out bigger and better innovations out of the other two guys, especially if Nintendo started nipping on their heels. So what I really wanted from the Switch was this great console. It doesn't have to be the most powerful thing on the market, but powerful enough in the hardware region to be able to support all of the games that are coming out right now, all of the AAA third-party developed games that are coming out right now, because you need those supplementary titles outside of your first-party studios, which, you can see Sony's PlayStation definitely understands, because they have a whirlwind of first-party studios, Sucker Punch and Guerrilla Games and Quantic Dreams and all that kind of stuff that are building all these great games for them, but then they also have all of this supplemental content, which is sometimes what people will even buy the system for, and then the first party stuff is just a plus. So I wanted Nintendo to have that, and to be able to leverage their IPs to create great games. Everybody's expecting Mario Karts and a dedicated Mario game. I'd love like a dedicated Metroid game that doesn't suck. Legend of Zelda, everybody was waiting for. Maybe we'll see another Donkey Kong. Maybe we'll see some some of the other like their prime IPs. But that's not enough. Nintendo knows that too. Nintendo's problem is that they've been leveraging the same unbelievable IPs for such a long time that they haven't gotten the chance to really establish enough more new IPs and new characters and new flagship enterprises that speak to the majority of gamers. I forget where the demographic of gamers is right now, but I'm fairly certain it's between the ages of like 18 and 35. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of kids that play games, and there's a lot of older guys that plays games, guys and girls both. But the core demographic is the people that grew up on Nintendo. So they're older, they can handle more mature titles and that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't see any of that with the Switch. So with this new handheld device, they kind of threw away conventional, console making for what you would expect out of Nintendo, for what I consider gimmicky, or maybe not, just like less important than having a machine that can play good games. But I might be totally in the wrong on that one, because mobile gaming is a huge thing, and they were trying to capitalize on that. Just with the Wii U, like they were trying to capitalize on the tablet craze, which was just stupid. And then with the Wii, they were capitalizing on motion craze, or actually kind of creating motion craze and that kind of stuff. I just don't know how important that is. I think you want to reestablish and negotiate your brand in the minds of your consumers, because everybody's kind of tired of Nintendo's antics. And I definitely can say that, because their sales as of late, and by late I mean since the Wii, the original Wii, which was like 8, 9, 10 years ago, have been awful. Have been awful comparatively to the people in their space, and I really do want them to do better. So here are the reasons why you shouldn't buy a Nintendo Switch, which is kind of supposed to be the meat of this video. My big problem with the Nintendo Switch right now is its launch lineup. And you might be able to point at some other launch lineups. Honestly, Nintendo's just not been great with launch lineups in general. 3DS launch lineup was pretty bad. But other systems and other consoles have had pretty bad launch lineups. But when you look at like PlayStation 4, Xbox One, which is what this is still being compared to, and I think it's fair for it to be compared to. But the big problem with Nintendo is that, or with their launch lineup, is that it's non-existent, basically. Their first huge mistake is the pretty tangible like profit motive that you can see in all of this. And of course, all of these companies, they're not here to make friends, they're here to make your money and that kind of stuff. But there's ways to make consumers money and keep like consumer appreciation. And I immediately got turned off when I saw the prices of accessories for the Nintendo console, and the lack of any sort of like launch game or launch bundle that gave anybody a discount on any of these kinds of things or anything like that. So the Nintendo Switch uses these two tiny little mini controllers, and let's just go here. But one of the cool things that they offer is their Pro controller. So the Pro controller just by itself is $70. The Pro controller is basically what you would expect out of a regular DS, like DualShock 4 or regular Xbox One controller. It's just their big, like, mainstream controller or whatever. And of course, for some reason, they're pricing it $10 above what even the bigger guys at this point are pricing it at. Maybe just because their name is worth that much. Comfort grip, like they're selling like a ton of grips and different options. I don't have any problem with any of these kinds of stuff. They're reasonably priced. Like $15 for a grip is like, it's like, okay, if you got that money, go ahead and spend it. It's not necessary. But if you want like a second set of controllers, which is my biggest problem from them, the Switch has these tiny little like mini controllers that you can pop off, and you're supposed to pop those off and put them in a grip. And the grip with the two mini controllers becomes your big controller. So that's the main thing that you plan. So if you want somebody else to play with you with their own little controller, it is $40 each for those tiny mini controllers. And then you have to buy the charging grip, which is like another $30 or something. So getting a whole like one set of controllers is like 120 or $130. Which is insane. It's just insane. So if you don't believe me, go look up some of the prices. You can see them on the shelves and stuff like that. So they've got all these like overpriced accessories and all this kinds of stuff that like my second hugest problem is that it doesn't come bundled with anything. No way for you to really test out your experience. Wii came bundled with like Wii Sports and stuff like that, and Nintendo Land came bundled with Wii U and all these other different stuff or different things. So the game that should have been bundled with it is at least in my opinion a pretty terrible game called 1-2 Switch, which you may have seen from their press conference. 1-2 Switch is a game that I'd imagine you'd play for maybe 10 or 15 minutes and get completely bored with. It's basically a tech demo where it's showing off some of the gyro sensors, and hopefully I don't get kicked off of YouTube with motions like that. But gyro sensors and all sorts of other stuff, and showing off like motion and what the Switch can do, and you play it with a buddy, and it's supposed to be a good social party game. But it's just a bunch of cheap mini games basically, and that kind of stuff you'd expect to be bundled with the system so that you can try it out and that kind of stuff. Not only is it not bundled with the system, it's not priced at an agreeable price, which to me for a game like that would be I don't know, maximum at a launch maybe $20. Instead, it's $49.99. So if you want to get your full complete experience, then spend $50 and get basically a tech demo for the Switch, and that thing is incredibly overpriced. And by the way, the Switch is going to cost $400 and up because you need to buy at least one game for you to play it, and everybody's going to buy one. So it's like, do I want to spend $400 on this, or do I want to buy a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One, which have a huge library of free-to-play games and that kind of stuff that you can just jump right into if you don't want to buy any games. But even without that, you got to pay for their online service, but we'll get onto that as well, because Nintendo is jumping on board with probably the worst practice of the last like 10-12 years is this online service that they keep gouging you for. Or do you buy like a PlayStation 4, which has already got a huge library of games, or an Xbox One, it's got a huge library of games, it's going to have support with different systems. If you have handhelds like the Vita, it's support with that, support with the PC for PlayStation Now. For Xbox One, you're getting all this support. If you have a PC with your computer, all their exclusives are going to be co-manageable and that kind of stuff. It's just the value proposition is just insane, just insanely disparate between the two. Let's hope to God that they learn a lesson, from the Wii U's, where the Wii U didn't drop in price at all. It was $350. It's probably still $350. They stopped production on them, but if you can find them, it's probably still $350. And the reason is because it was so expensive for them to produce the tablet and all that kind of stuff that there was a really tiny profit margin with that thing. So they couldn't make any money off of it if they dropped it, and that was just another of the huge blunders of the Wii U, which I'm seeing a little bit of in the Nintendo Switch. I'm gonna be honest. This kind of looks like another Wii U. It looks like it has all this hype behind it, all this like, oh my god, this is such a cool system. Wow, a tablet. Wow, it's got mobile gaming. You can just plug it into what's basically a dedicated HDMI port, and wow, it just pops up on your screen. 2017 technology. But the idea is like, they're trying to capture these two markets, the mobile and the console market, and I think they're going to be unsuccessful at both, because they have an incredibly awesome and incredibly successful mobile device already in the 3DS, and they're not going to drop support for the 3DS. There's still getting games made for them or whatever. So basically, what you did is you cut the potential hardware ability, the power ability of this Nintendo console, so that you could capture a market that you already had. And maybe I get the idea. It's like it's like an all-in-one. Like you would see these kinds of things in different markets. Like, this is your all-in-one device. You no longer need your $200 3DS. Now you can just buy another $400 item, and you'll have both. Great. I just don't think people were looking for these kinds of things. There's already solutions to having Nintendo on the go, and there's already solutions to having games on the go, and then there's always a huge cell phone market. Like, good God, there's like, that's one of the things that's huge in Japan and other markets, and obviously our market too, in America, because mobile gaming is king. Everybody's got one in their pocket. So anyway, they're trying to corner this market that I don't think that I think the one they already had the handheld gaming portion of, and for some reason they're trying to, like, I don't know, double dip or something like that. But the biggest mistake that makes is that you have this console that's so I I don't want to exaggerate too much, but it's really underpowered when you compare it to today's consoles. Even if you like, it's probably on par, or maybe a little bit above, like what the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 like a decade ago were putting out. And because of that, you're going to see the same problems that you saw with the Wii U. Third-party developers not being able to support the console in entirety because it won't be able to run the AAA games, or if it does run them, it's going to run them at subpar frequencies. It's going to run them in like, sub frames, or it's going to run them at less than stellar, pixel rate. Like it's not going to look as good. It's not going to run as good. And that's going to turn people off from buying that for the console. If they're not buying any third-party games for the console, what are they going to buy? Well, you guys could probably answer back to me right now what they're going to buy. Let's take a look at the first-party Nintendo IPs that are coming out. The first thing you have is The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. They completely delivered on this great RPG that everybody's been anticipating. I'll be real with you. Legend of Zelda's sales aren't like incredible comparatively to other successful titles, but it's a fairly successful first party venture from them. So and it's gotten great reviews. And then you have 1-2 Switch, right? And those are the two first party games. That's it. That's it. There's no more. There's two first party games that launched with the system. Where's everything else? You had so much time. You had all these years, and you have all of these characters, and all these really cool things that you could do. You could make new stuff and for them and then stuff like that. But it's just those two, and you have like all these other games that are coming up, like in April, and which I guess is this month technically, but coming up for spring and all this kinds of stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe these are out already, but it was still not out at launch, which is my point. But ARMS, which is just a fighting game that I have absolutely no interest in, and doesn't look like it's going to be awesome at all. And then you get like kind of what's basically a port with Mario Kart 8 with like some extra goodies built into it and stuff like that. That I think already is out. But the problem is like we're not seeing anything huge or anything major until way down the road, probably 5 or 6 months down the road, when Super Mario Odyssey comes out. And that's one game that I'm really excited for. But I have to wait 6 months to play one thing of value on the Switch that I haven't played before. Shovel Knight, I've played before. All of the ports, The Binding of Isaac, I've played before. I've played all these games before, and they're awesome games. It's great you got them on the handheld. The main consumer, if you talk to somebody, and this is what I do every time somebody says they're super excited about the Switch, I ask them to name me like 3 games that they're excited to play on it. Like 3 games that are like Switch-only games. And they really only, come out with Legend of Zelda because it's pretty clear that that's the only good game that's out right now. Nothing wrong with that, but I do want to keep that in people's minds, that if you're getting caught up in all this hype, and even if your friends have these games and stuff like that, you're gonna be able to play one game. You're basically spending $400 to play one game. I mean, if you got all the money in the world, then this video is not even for you in general. A lot of people kind of have to budget and parse out their savings. Why I say, and what I said at the start of this video, that you should probably wait until like a year, or at least the end of this year, till like maybe 2018, is we'll see not only you'll have probably 2 worthy games, maybe if you're into ARMS and stuff like that, and I think Splatoon 2 is coming out. Both of those games do not interest me, but they might interest some other. You'll have like a handful of games that you could possibly play. You'll probably see a dip in price from games like 1-2 Switch at the end of this year and stuff like that. You'll see. You'll hear more about incoming titles and probably dates for things coming in, so you'll have a better like view of the future of like the things that are going to be on your console. That's probably what I'd reevaluate, what the Switch is going to be, especially if there's a sale on it, because I think the console's a tad bit overpriced anyway. So there's a sale on it during the holidays. There's more games on it, Super Mario's on it, that kind of stuff. That's probably the time to look at the console, if you even want to be an early adopter, because that's still going to be an early adopter for now, until the price of a lot of things decrease, until we see more software, titles incoming and stuff like that. I'd recommend just holding off. These are my thoughts and opinions on the system. I've got a handful more of them, but those are really the major points that I wanted to get through. Is just it was not what I expected or what I hoped. I think you're going to see the same thing that happened with the Wii U, which was because it was such a held back system, because the hardware was so inept compared to the people on the front lines that game developers were developing consoles for, not to mention PCs, which a good PC would outclass the PS4 and the Xbox One easy. Developers aren't going to go through all of these problems to make all these versions and make all these things and work out the bugs on every single unit or whatever, so you're just not going to see a lot of third-party development on the Nintendo Switch. And if you do see it, it's going to be more independent-oriented games, which I'm a huge fan of. Nothing wrong with that. Or it's going to be stuff that's just, cut out, content that's cut out, or you're going to see it at a low frame rate, or you're going to see, like, The Legend of Zelda never hits 1080p in 2017, which is ridiculous to me. That's kind of the standard for definition right now, and it could only make it to 900p on your TV in the dock, and when it's on your handheld, it's only 720p, which is the visual quality of a DVD, basically. It still looks good, and their arts are always stylized to kind of cover this up, but also in a beautiful way. So it still looks good. I don't want to dissuade people that bought the system to not get that game. I think you really should, because I did play it a lot, and it's really great. They're going to see a lot of problems with the Wii U, and I think they're going to see a burst of sales and then nothing. I don't think they're going to see things for a long time, because they're building up all these promises on hot air. There's nothing out yet. There's nothing out, or there's no purpose for this device yet. There's no reason to play it. Good God, I just wanted to jump on one thing there. The other anti-consumer practices that I was talking about, besides having all this profit gouging with your accessories and stuff like that, they're giving you an online service, and they're going to make you pay for it, and the payment, they haven't stated it yet, but I guarantee it's probably going to be about $50 or $60 a month, or not a month, a year, just like their competitors. But they're not going to have the problem is, like, all this false equivocation. It's not you're trying to sell a product and a service, or a Pro controller or something like that. That's like, or to the console itself, that is like, you think it's like the same. You're trying to sell it at the same value as like something else that you could buy that has way more value. Any way you look at it, more games, more opportunities, more stuff, especially with the online system, especially if they come out at the same price, more support already, more features and functions and stuff like that. And then the thing that just annoyed the crap out of me was when I heard that, just like all the other services, this Nintendo online service is going to give you one free game a month from their vault, or whatever, like a classic game or something like that, and they'll give it to you for free. But unlike any other service on the planet that does this thing already, which is, I might be exaggerating a little bit there, it's really just the two major services that are out there already. But unlike both of those services, the free game that you get, they take back at the end of the month. They take it back. They don't give it to you for free and let you keep it forever, which you see, I think, on Xbox systems. You don't see it's free as long as you keep your account, so basically forever, as long as you keep wanting to play online with your system, which you see with PlayStation devices. Both of those would be completely understandable, but no, it's free for a month, and then they take it back, and if you want to keep playing the game that you've invested however many hours into, you just pony up the money and you can buy it. This is another anti-consumer practice that I see, and another thing that really bugs me. So not only are we going to be paying premium prices for their accessories, premium price for the system, a premium price for the games that they don't have yet, you're going to be paying a premium price for their online service that's not going to give you anything. Until more news comes out about that, I am firmly negative about anything online related with Nintendo. Anyway, I want Nintendo to do better, and I want them to do good things, and I think they have the potential to. But the main problem is that they just don't seem to understand or to listen to what I think their main demographic, or their core demographic, like, wants. And I'd consider myself part of their main demographic. I'm somebody that really loves Nintendo games. It's just they've never been able to hook me on their hardware for a long time. And I'm not that old. So I really want to see something in my lifetime that shows to me that Nintendo is ready to support their software with deserved hardware, something that makes sense for them. So anyway, until then, we'll see what happens in these next couple of months, but I think they're going to be having some issues down the road with this thing. Thank you guys so much for dropping by and watching. I know this is a little bit of a longer discussion video. I do these podcasts sometimes. If you've never been to my channel before, feel free to subscribe if you like the content. I always enjoy it. I'll be putting out content, as quickly as I can. I know to the current subscribers, I've been having some content flow issues. I'm kind of in the middle of doing a pretty large project here, making a record, and this with my band and a few other things, and doing some producing and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of like really eating up a lot of my time. So I gotta apologize, but of course, I'll be able to put up videos as quickly as I can, as much as I can. Thank you guys so much. I always appreciate it, and I'll see you guys for the next show.